So as a Filipino person, what is your experience of engaging in the UK workplace?
Being like the only one is always a bit like, it's a bit lonely sometimes. Maybe with my work up in like a certain space, like just seeing like a Filipino person's name in the city that you grew up in, like with your family, and getting emotional, but like special, special.
It is. I think what people see with ethnic minorities or people of non-white backgrounds in the UK is just the tip of the iceberg. They don't see the hardship, the struggle, the mindset, the cultural experience, the rich heritage and legacy of our parents and ancestors and forefathers that we carry with us every day.
Everybody, we are co-hosts of Eastern Hunnies, a new cute little podcast.
It's our love letter to diaspora. In every episode, we'll talk to a new guest doing amazing things for culture, community, and we'll just have some great conversation.
So, should we get into it?
Let's dive right in. Isabelle Landicho is a Philippine-born, North London-bred, multidisciplinary creative. They're an award-winning stylist, art director, and panelist, specialising in fashion and lifestyle and intersectionality. Her work has been featured in Dazed, Another, Vogue Philippines, and at L'Officiel Singapore. With more than 10 years of industry experience within fashion, Isabelle has worked with an extensive list of clients on multimedia projects, spanning ad campaigns, lookbooks, and film. The clientele includes Levi's, Barbican, Design Museum, Tate Modern, Adidas, The North Face, and Nike. No big deal. Isabelle is the director of The Earth Issue, a creative agency and platform dedicated to using art and image culture as a driving force to celebrate people and planet. Together, we are Eastern Hunnies.
Wow, thank you so much, sis, for that incredibly long introduction that made me feel low-key uncomfortable, but you always hype me up better than I hype myself up, so I appreciate you. And now we're about to meet you professionally. Melissa Legarda is a British-Filipino writer, photographer, content producer, and strategist from London. Her writing has been published in Refinery 29, Time Out London, Harper's Bazaar Vietnam, and Inquirer. You were also longlisted for the Murky Books New Writers Prize in 2021 and runs an award-winning independent travel blog, illumination.com. Melissa's creative career began after reverse migrating to Manila to work for a government film department. Living in Philippines really inspired you to found Virginity, a coconut oil brand that champions natural produce, something that we actually worked on together. And I really love also like your tagline for Virginity was like empowering the minority, which is something that really resonates with me to this day. Melissa, you actually publicly spoke out on diversity in business at London City Hall, advocating for greater visibility for underrepresented entrepreneurs, which I didn't know. Very interesting.
Since we just covered the professional, let's get into the personal.
Let's do it.
So, how did we meet? How did we become friends? And what is the origin story of Eastern Hunnies?
So, my mum's friend, Ronnie, who runs Lahing Kayumangi Dance
Love
Company.
Ronnie.
Yeah, he's great. So he asked me to showcase my graduate fashion collection. I had just graduated from Arts University, Bournemouth. He saw my collection, wanted to showcase him, which was so kind of him. And I showcased my collection, and then you were there.
I was there covering the event for the newspaper. My brother was modelling for your collection. Shout out to Trey, my bro. So, as I said in the trailer, I spotted you wearing that barong and the beret, and I was like, that's amazing. I have to go chat to her. And then, we met on a wintry day in Camden and dived into all things trauma, workplace, fashion, life, heritage. I think from there, that was it.
Especially, I think, when we started working in the industry, I've been doing this for 13 years. And for me, it was just really nice to meet someone else that was also kind of working in the same parallel industry. On the topic of meeting each other and like forging a friendship. Like, how do you identify and why? Is it like Britnoy? Is it Londoner? For those who don't know, like, what is Britnoy?
The words "how do you identify" are so loaded. I would say British-Filipino. Lately, I've really leaned into the hyphenation. I think hyper specificity is so important. But then, you know, there's so much in that because I'm not half English, but British is nationality, Filipino is the heritage. So it's British-Filipino. And I say that even though my mum is mostly Spanish, but there's a whole bag of things involved in that. I think that's the biggest thing that people don't understand. When I say I'm Filipino, people are like, but you're too tall to be Filipino, or you don't look Filipino. And it's like, well, what is a Filipino?
Yeah.
You know, there's so many shades. There's a whole spectrum that of history and past, which I think could do with greater awareness, which is why we're talking about all of this.
And also why we started this.
Yeah,
too.
100.
Yeah.
So I would say British-Filipino. I would say Londoner. I feel like Londoner is such a specific identifier because I don't really call myself English. I would say my accent is English, but I would say I'm a Londoner.
That sentiment like really rings true with a lot of like immigrants too. Like you're British first and foremost. English is another thing on its own.
Yes.
And that's something I resonate with as well.
Because English feels like nationalism, whereas British feels like
Britain.
Yeah, it's
like Great
inclusive.
Britain.
Yeah, we're winning medals at the Olympics.
Yeah,
English is like
literally.
stay out the pub. So, yeah, how do you identify?
It's a really like loaded question actually, because I do identify as a Londoner. My family moved here when I was 8. And so I am a Londoner like through and through. Like I perceive myself as a London native. But my formative years were spent in Manila in the Philippines. So that's definitely like a place I call home. And like experiences that really shaped me into the person that I am today really started like from when I was living in the Philippines and my childhood in Manila. So I think like I would identify, I don't know.
Where feels most like home to you?
Home feels like London, but my heart is Filipino, I would say.
I feel like that's interesting because the main difference between us, we're the same age, we have the same interests, the same demographics, but you were born in Manila, I was born in London, and so you are first generation and I'm second generation. It's interesting how that might manifest, like in the way we think, things that we can't access about each other.
In Ali Wong's stand-up show,
Baby Cobra?
Baby Cobra, in her show, like Ali Wong's like, oh, there's like fancy Asians and jungle Asians.
Yeah.
And I'm jungle Asian, like through and through.
100.
And then there's also things, I mean, there's things that I do now in my everyday life. They're resourceful. Their fight and flight sometimes kicks in, do you know what I mean? Philippines, it is a developing country. It's a different standard of living out there.
It is.
And then when you come here to like a developed country, I'm using a lot of quotation marks.
Yeah, that's bunny quotes if you're not watching this.
Yeah, like there's definitely experiences from when I grew up that really ring true to how like I live my life on a day-to-day and how I am as a person like right now. And that's to me like really interesting because your experiences must be totally different.
It might be, but also because I was raised by Filipino immigrants, I also inherited their quirks, their cultural things, the way they move, the way they say things. I think the main similarity between us once we hit maybe our teenage years is that experience of being the only brown or Asian face in a white middle class bubble, especially at school. And then also the need to be in survival mode, especially for like university through to this point in our career, where we're finally beginning to engage and relax and lean into our identities in a way that we were not able to do before.
Yeah.
So I think even though there's differences, we dovetail probably at that point where like adolescence, teenage years, all of those things, identity becomes such a huge conversation. It's like once you hit 13, you're just main character. You're like, everything is life or death. Does he fancy me? Like, am I going to go to this party? Like, why do my parents put fish in my lunchbox? Whatever it is.
And like, I really resonate with that as well. Like, in my 20s, I think I was trying to fit in so many boxes and like please so many people and like be the perfect daughter or like, you know, partner or, you know, like career woman, business woman / person. But now I like grow and ease into like, you know, my 30s.
Yeah.
I don't feel the need to minimize myself anymore or like put myself into these boxes or roles that simply don't fit and they never have done. I think religion plays a really like important part in it, like because I was raised like Catholic, like Roman Catholic, and like there's like so many like rules like attached to that. And then also like when you move here as like an immigrant, you know, like my dad always says, like always used to say growing up, it's like when you're brown you work twice as hard to go half as far.
Yeah.
And
Model
like,
minority
was definitely like embedded in me, like growing up, which is I think like his way of showing love, because it's just like, you know, we moved here, we want to like thrive and like do good for our family, but also for like the community and the culture and the people back home too. So now I'm like, you know, in this space, I'm like, fuck it, like let me just be, let me live. And which is also why like I wanted to start Eastern Hunnies with you, because it's like, you know, we're now like talking about these quite like heavy hitting subject topics right now, but like fundamentally I really wanted to, you know, start this podcast because it is a space for joy and belonging and community. And I love being able to work with other Asian creatives, like on like shout out to the crew, like right now, like it's such a gift to be able to work with other people like that look like you in front of the lens as well as behind the lens.
Because we did not have this.
We didn't have this.
We had was Mutia Buena and Lucy Liu, who's American.
Lucy Liu, Vanessa White, like
White.
shout out the OG puns. But yeah, like it just feels really good to like be in this space now and create a space for us.
I definitely want to pin the conversation around the responsibility of being a daughter and pleasing your elders. So as a Filipino person, what is your experience of engaging in the UK workplace?
Do you know what? Like, I think the most challenging part of it is how isolating it can be.
Yeah.
Being like the only one is always a bit like, it's a bit lonely sometimes because like not everyone, or like there's people in like the crew or in like professional spaces that don't have the same life experiences as you. And so it kind of like hits different. People don't really just like get it. But I think like, I think it can be an isolating experience. But I'm very fortunate enough to like in my career, like, I don't know, just meet really incredible people that I'm so thankful for. And they like, and the people I work with, they become friends. And I think that's something really special about like the creative community in London, especially. Like it's so small, and you know, you bump into people like all the time, like down the road, like, you know, up my like local high street and that. But it's just like good vibes. Like it is good vibes. But like I would say that's the most challenging thing. But the most like joyful thing, I don't know if this is gonna sound big-headed, but it's like being the first. Not the first even maybe, but just like, you know, being the first Filipino person, like maybe with my work up in like a certain space. My work was featured in the Barbican and in an exhibition for Our Time on Earth. And my work with the Earth issue was like posted up at the Barbican, and it was amazing because I like brought my whole family to see it, and like we don't go to exhibitions because like we're working.
Yeah.
But like just seeing like a Filipino person's name like in the city that you grew up in, like with your family, and getting emotional, but like special. Special.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a powerful thing because there's such a dire lack of representation, and you don't notice the void that is there until it's filled. It's difficult on so many levels. Like in the workplace thing, like we'll tackle this more in another conversation, but you're constantly code switching, constantly being mindful of how you move. How you're coming across. Are you coming across too much or threatening or too meek? Are you coming across as any kind of stereotype? And I think that is the work people have to do to not fall into the trap of being anything other than themselves. When you move through those spaces feeling constantly repressed, it is isolating. It is lonely when you don't feel like you can just be.
Yeah, you have to edit. And
you have to edit.
Not a vibe all the time.
You're constantly self-editing.
Yeah.
It's so exhausting. Also, you know, dealing with things like microaggressions, dealing with everyday things that people say which are so not okay, but you feel gaslit because why are you upset? Why are you upset that someone said that? It's so minor. But when you're the only person in the room experiencing those things, then it's very taxing mentally because you're carrying this load on your own. And I really think the events of the past couple of years, like the recent race riots in August 2024, Black Lives Matter back in 2020, all of these race-related events have amplified not just the need for greater safe spaces for things relating to race and identity, but also the fact there is such a huge issue. So coming back to your point, I think it's incredible that your name is there in lights.
And yours.
I really carry this sense of legacy. There are so many firsts in my family on both my mum and dad's side, and there is a huge sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
But it's also like they walked so we could run.
Yeah, period.
And it's also like, you know, it's okay for us to like have a cushy life and binge watch Netflix. And it's okay to just read a book and put your feet up and not worry.
Yeah, and constantly being like survival.
Exactly. And I think that's the real thing. It's like hustling. When is it ever enough? My grandma hustled, so why am I not hustling?
Yeah, I mean, that's so true.
I think what people see with ethnic minorities or people of non-white backgrounds in the UK is just the tip of the iceberg. They don't see the hardship, the struggle, the mindset, the cultural experience, the rich heritage and legacy of our parents and ancestors and forefathers that we carry with us every day. And it's just yin yang as a non-white person in this country. There's so much beauty, joy
And difference,
a diversity of thought and existence that is so gorgeous. And then there is the other side, the flip side, where it's struggle, hardship, isolation, repression. We constantly have to carry the two, and we constantly also, by virtue of not being raised in the countries we are ethnically from, have to struggle with this duality of existence as well. And I know it's like such a hackneyed cliche to be like, I am the child of immigrants living in a country that is not my own, but there is a very real struggle in that. And some people are more conscious of it than others, and some people can walk it better than others, depending on how they look or depending on how they move. Like the other day when I was on a work call in your studio, you were like, oh, you have a white voice. And I was like, what do you mean? But I just think it comes down to having to code switch and flex and fit into spaces.
But like in saying that, like I think that is so true. And I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and like I think the change is here. Like the change is here because like us as like 30-something-year-olds, as millennials, as millennials, or however which you want to call it, like we are in positions of authority. Like the come up is here. Like we are now in professional spaces. We are the people that we always wanted to see up there.
She good?
No, she's good. But like change is here.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the more people that we have in positions of authority that look like us from underrepresented communities, the more space we have and the more like, the more we can invite other people who look like us or are also from underrepresented communities to like have a seat at the table, because it's not the same as it used to be.
Yeah.
It's so different now. And I think before, like when I first started my career, like it was very much like, you know, the only brown person in the studio. But now, like, you know, there's me in the studio, and then I can invite like, you know, other people to come along on at the start of their journeys and the start of their career, along for the ride, you know. And that is beautiful. Like, it's beautiful that we're here.
Yeah.
We're here. I'm not gonna cry again, I promise. Like, we're here, we're visible.
Yeah.
And it's like a space for, like, honestly, I keep saying it's a space for joy, but it is. Like, we're here and it's fun. Just to like end with, perhaps, what is the most favorite thing about being Filipino? Like, I've never actually asked you this, and I would love to know.
My favorite thing about being Filipino, and by the way, being Filipino is not a monolith.
We are
There
not
is
monolith.
a spectrum. My favorite thing about being Filipino is the diaspora. They ride so hard for each other. Since I came out the womb, I think I was just pointing at people on TV being like, she's Filipino.
No.
Like, card, token, collecting them like rare Pokemon cards. And I think the instinctive pride and engagement with each other is so special. And I think Filipinos are all over the world. They are seafaring. They are the backbone of the shipping industry, of so many hidden industries globally, like propping up the global economy. And I think there's a resilience and a tendency towards joyfulness, rather than struggle. That's really beautiful. And I think, again, recognized game. Like, when I'm traveling and I see another Filipino, it's so beautiful. And there's an instant sense of connection. The kinship. And it's, I would say it's my favorite place to be, like, in the diaspora. And I think just the idea of family, you know, it's an open door culture, and you will always feel safe and never alone in that capacity, wherever you are. If you find someone Filipino, you know you're in good hands.
Oh, love that.
How about you? What is your favorite thing, Isabelle, about being Filipino?
My favorite thing about Filipino, I would say, I think it's very similar to yours. I think it's like the community. Like, and I think it's like how we can make light of any situation. We love karaoke. We love football, basketball, even though we're like 5 foot tall. Like, we love it. And like, we like our spaghetti is sweet. Like, what the hell? And like, we make everything our own, and everything's fun. It's more fun in the Philippines.
Yeah.
For a reason.
Bureaucracy aside, it's more fun in the Philippines.
Bureaucracy aside, it is more fun in the Philippines. We're all kind of like wilding out, like in our chanelas, just making the most of it, and just like having a ball. And that's like what I love, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's I love being Filipino because of the community, and I also love being Filipino because
the self-expression.
Yeah, and also like I love being brown. I love like my dark skin, and like I know I'm like not as dark as some other people, but like I love being melanated. Like, I do.
Yes.
Yeah. And on being melanated, wear SPF, because I didn't for a long ass time.
But you have nary a wrinkle, my dear.
Thank you. But I wear SPF now.
I love that.
Yeah.
Someone sponsor us.
So to wrap up, because we're running over so heavily, we kind of already wrote a letter to the diaspora, but to keep it short, like, if you were to write a love letter to the diaspora, what would you say?
I would say more seats at the table, more representation is only a good thing, because when people who've been through struggle sit with other people who've been through struggle, there is more empathy, more change, more joy, more celebration of differences rather than division. And so keep making change, people. That would be mine. What would be your letter to the diaspora?
My love letter to the diaspora, I think, would say just like have fun.
Have fucking fun.
Have fun. I think things can feel really serious a lot of the time because there's so much riding on things. Because, sorry, I keep sniffing. But like, there's so much riding on things being the first, like eldest daughter, first Filipino in the studio or an office space, like first Filipino like on my course at uni kind of thing. And I think like I would say like to release and enjoy, like the burden is not on your shoulders alone. And to just be. Stop and smell the roses.
We're human beings.
Yeah, stop and smell the sampaguita. Do you know what
human
I mean?
doings. Shout out to Erica Valido.
Thank you. Erica Valido, friend of the show.
If you're not watching, she tailored these beautiful earrings.
And she also
adorned this beautiful dress.
Yeah, so she made our lovely wardrobe for today. Erica Valido made this lovely like Tiano inspired top and this kind of like pambahay ensemble that I've really made extra with this like little tie situation. Apart from that, like, sorry to interrupt, what are you up to right now? Like, where can people reach you?
What am I up to right now?
Apart from this?
Apart from Eastern Hunnies, I'm in the mix, producing.
She's out there in Paris.
Creating, working between Paris and London right now. Amazing. She's exhausted, but she's thriving.
Yeah, you're thriving.
And I feel like we're the best we've ever been.
Slay.
You can reach me at illumination.com or illumination.com online, or just search Mel Legarda. How about you, Iz?
So what I'm up to right now is obviously working on this podcast and project with my amazing co-host and my amazing crew. So thank you so much, cast and crew, friends of the show. I've also just finished or I'm working on a project with the Design Museum for their newest exhibit / display, Tomorrow's Wardrobe. I contacted an amazing Filipino fashion designer, Lisandro.
Love.
So his incredible skirt is going to be displayed on the mannequin that I worked on. And I'm also going to I borrowed a tabunga from Lahing Kayumangi, which is a gourd hat.
I love that gourd hat.
Yeah, it's like harvested and made from like gourd and like made by one of the dancers from LK, like by hand by their family in the Philippines. So it was really important for me to like represent those underrepresented communities that are left out of the climate conversation.
Yes.
Especially when like, you know, like sustainability isn't really a thing back home. It's just a way of being.
Yeah. There is so many nose to tail restaurants. And I'm like, ethnic people have been doing this since day dot. Yeah. There's no waste.
Adobo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and I guess like apart from that, people can reach me at lethal_Izzle on Instagram, lethal__Izzle on TikTok. Oh my god, TikTok. Yeah, I guess isabellandicho.com. But yeah, I'm online.
She's hey internet.
Hey internet.
Ultimately, we are so grateful for you guys listening, taking time to hear what we have to say.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to share what others have to say in our upcoming episodes.
We are but a vessel for the ancestors.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
But also our own people too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in.
That's Ep 1.
Yeah, we'll catch
you in the next episode.
Bye.